All right, so welcome to Bloom in Full Color, where we live life in high definition. I'll just stop there instead of rant like I normally. What did you just say? Let it rip, potato chip.
Let it rip, tater chip. You never heard that?
No.
Yeah?
The dad jokes from
Yeah.
Zach are
Seagull.
just absolutely lovely.
My own girlfriend says I'm so much like a dad without having any children.
And did you know, FYI, I'm going to say this, Zach does not want children either.
No.
I didn't want children
good.
either. So.
Yeah, but he's going to,
Good.
Sometimes
he's got
life
the dad
will
jokes
deposit
like
them
on.
in your world regardless, because I'm going to be really callous right now. So
Mhm.
please know that creating humans via the human body is a beautiful, wonderful thing and it's a miracle. And also, I love my stepchildren. However, having stepchildren, I wanted no crotch goblins of my own because I was a terrible teenager and I was really awful to my parents. And that is kind of a piece of the topic we're going to talk about today. And I wanted to avoid my karma by controlling my procreation. And then somebody up top in some, destiny,
Divine intervention.
had its way. And I met a man with twin daughters, and now I have 11-year-olds that are going through hormones, and it's way fun.
So fun.
But, I still love my kids. We actually had, so they got in trouble, not them, but the class they were in, got 5 pages of fraction homework last night. And it was like torture.
What grade are they in?
6th. So there was a substitute teacher, and the real teacher came back, and there was gum embedded in the carpet in the back of the classroom when she returned. She was pissed. Understandably so.
Yeah, because they have to pay for all that now. Yeah.
So she's pissed. So she gave him homework. And so, their mother and I are going, are they trying to do homework for when we're on vacation? Because we're trying to get ahead. And so I get home and I was like, why do you have homework? And they were like, oh, we got in trouble. But we sit in the front of the class. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. So they were really frustrated. You could tell that so I went and got the huge change bucket. And I was like, all right. 100 pennies and $1. Let's figure this out. And literally you watched, my mom gave me a huge compliment this morning because she was over there and she's like, I just want you to know I was really impressed on how you handled that. And because math is really easy for me. I have an engineer dad, so like calculator brain, totally a thing.
Right.
My brother's even better than I am. I'm like, okay. I mean, comparatively, I'm probably really good compared to somebody who hates math. I do okay.
Right.
But man, it was a thing last night, and we went through it. So
My husband's really good at math.
well, we had a really
I'm not.
And gosh, Gwen. So my being twins, they're both same classes for quite a few of their classes, same grade, and she is ADHD, and she's been a little bit behind for a long time. And math is very easy to her. And she just was on fire last night. She's like, I am so smart. I am so good at this. And as soon as it clicked, she's like, this is so much more fun than math class. I was like, all right, so first off, your teacher's not going to bring this much change and explain it to a whole class.
Right.
I'm sorry too, Siri. You just keep back talking me. So we had quite the adventure last night of math and money.
Recently, I've been getting a lot of TikToks. Apparently, it's a shared experience of kids remembering crying while their dad is trying to help them with math homework.
Really?
I never had that. Apparently, it's a very common thing.
It's happened in my household.
Yeah.
It totally happened in my household.
Yeah, and I get TikToks.
I didn't have a dad.
I get TikToks where the dad is like, just take this number and add it to this number, and they turn to the kid, and there's just like snot running down their face, and they're crying, and I'm like, yeah.
I was like, oh.
So that happens with my daughter, Claire, who's 6 and learning cursive.
Oh.
In
Well, at
first
least
grade.
they're teaching cursive again.
But that's how
I have a funny story about that.
You have a what?
Cursive.
When
Yes.
The
when
non-dad
my class,
at the table. The
Yeah.
guy with no children has a cursive story about kids. Let's hear it.
So when I was more of a child,
Okay.
still kind of a child.
Yeah, it was like a little. You're closer to it than we are.
Yeah.
Right.
Jerk.
When we were taking SATs in high school, you have to write on the back in cursive. You have to
Yeah, you do.
print whatever it says. That took a solid 20 minutes for it was like 3 sentences. No one remembered how to write cursive.
I remember how to write cursive.
we were all taught cursive in
What's
like
the
third
really
grade.
weird
but
Z? Z is a hard
Z
one.
is a hard one.
Z is a hard
yeah.
one.
Well,
Well, and I'm a J.
Zach.
So- gee,
I kind
shit.
of get screwed right off.
Yeah,
the bat.
right out
Yeah.
of the gate.
Yeah.
with the flaccid M and the loop.
Yeah.
Excellent
It's not a
adjective.
Z.
Excellent
happened to that
adjective.
Z?
Yeah.
Excellent
So
adjective.
my daughter goes to private school. And so
Yeah,
they're
Lighthouse?
no.
Okay.
And so she's at TFCA.
Okay. I don't know
So
what that
they're
is, but that's
learning
okay.
they're learning cursive in first grade.
Good.
And
for
then they'll
them.
use it until about fourth grade.
Well, then they at least know how to do it. I just
Right.
like how print looks. That's just
I like
how
how print looks too.
I like.
but
I'm a printer.
most people don't know how to sign their name.
No,
like Zach was
my
saying,
daughters.
they don't
They
remember.
don't have any idea.
They
So-
don't teach it in normal
God,
school
I
anymore.
realized that they don't know our phone numbers or addresses the other day, and so I was like, and they just didn't ingrain that in.
Mm-hmm.
We also had COVID kids at one point too, so that's when
I
they were
had
really learning
2
that.
COVID babies.
Yeah, you did. Okay, well, let's talk about the topic. All right, so I had an experience the other day. So I am very high functioning. You know, now we talked about a couple episodes ago. I'm now CEO of the company. I do a lot all the time, and I do not know how to relax or rest. And it is literally starting to kill my body. I had a kidney stone 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Did not know it was kidney stone. Thought I was dying. I got through it. I shouldn't have gone to the hospital, but I definitely considered it at one point, and I was by myself at home and was like, oh, what do I do? I got through it.
I've heard
But-
that they take like down grown men.
Oh, 100%. Now, I have an exceptionally high tolerance
Yeah.
for pain, and I was like rolling around on the floor because it was acute lower back pain where your kidney is, and I didn't know what was happening, and so I was putting pain tab on. I took 2 Aleve, 3 Advil. I'm rolling around on the ground because I was like, do I have a pinched nerve? I couldn't figure it out. And in about 90 minutes, it calmed down. And my husband was with his mother and my children over at Wilson Theater doing the Harry Potter thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, oh my God. And he got home and I was like, I almost went to the emergency room while you were gone. And then on Sunday, so that was Thursday night. And on Sunday, I had like pain in the center of my back, very low. So like almost my digestive tract. And like went to the bathroom thinking it was a thing. This is total overshare. We'll stop there. But like basically I was in there like sweating, hot flashes, getting dizzy, laying on the floor, like, oh God, what's happening?
Did it pass though? Like
I think so. Like I actually showed up at my naturopath 2 days later and I was like, so this funny thing happened. I have a question. Where's your kidney? Because I thought it was a
Mhm.
kidney infection. And, you know, don't WebMD anything.
No.
Do not be a Google doctor. That is a terrible idea. So
It's always like you have stage 4 cancer.
yeah, it's just
you're
not-
dying.
Yeah.
Death is always the number one reason.
Yeah.
And every hypochondriac husband of an employee that I've known and is getting multiple phone calls when they have like a head cold, I'm like, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
So I just was like, I have a couple of questions. I had this happen, and she was like, you had a kidney stone. I was like, huh, that's what that was.
But you feel fine now?
No, I'm fine.
So it must have passed then.
Yeah, I must have. Like, and I couldn't tell you like the actual moment that happened. I have no idea, but basically that's stress in my body. It's, I mean, from a scientific standpoint, it is calcium deposits building up and becoming this like gnarly little spur that goes through your entire system. But
Like a goat head.
oh
So
my
are
God, it's
you-
like
yeah.
a really gnarly, like crystallized goat head with like
Yeah.
spikes in every
A
direction.
little
Like,
being of
do
pure hate.
not Google that.
So are you taking cranberry to help cleanse your kidneys?
So I'm on a kidney liver supplement.
Okay.
And just because I was at my naturopath.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, Kim, I have a question.
I love Kim.
She's a godsend. So if anybody is ever looking for supplemental help, there's somebody locally who does an incredible job. And I appreciate her. And she's a friend and she's a pretty rock star individual. So, and she just moved her clinic. So that
yes,
that is,
she did.
Yeah.
I need to go visit her actually because she has this stuff that helps keep me awake in the morning.
she also has a sourdough bread dealer. Oh yeah. She makes a chocolate one and one
Not
with
the sourdough
jalapeno.
plug.
Yeah. I was like sourdough plug from the last episode. Yeah. So I have like an egg dealer. That was PJ. He was here. His son has like 70 chickens. So I buy like farm fresh eggs from him directly all the time.
I might have
And-
to start doing that because
Wait until spring because the chickens are pissed off it's cold. So that's a thing.
Eggs are a thing right
Um,
now. They're
yeah.
expensive.
Oh, well, he's probably equal to the store now. And he should be.
Yes.
I'm basically paying for a breakfast burrito habit for his dad, which is fine. His PJ's granddaughter, Charlie, is the one who takes care of the chickens. And so I'm her best customer. I buy about 50 to 75 eggs a week or every 2 weeks because my husband eats 4 eggs a morning. 4 hard-boiled eggs with a piece of salami with a dollop of buffalo sriracha sauce with pepper.
But
How much protein is
we
that?
do need
That's
to
a lot of
preface,
protein.
though, her husband is on his feet all the time.
My husband owns B&J Carpentry,
Yeah.
co-owns it with his partner Josh, so B&J, that's
Yeah.
its own joke. And they do massive carpentry work, but his partner is like 5'5", 120 pounds dripping wet. So Brandon is the muscle.
Yeah.
So he does all the lifting. Now Josh helps. Don't let me discredit
but 4
Josh at all.
eggs is like, to us, that's like, oh,
yeah,
but
well,
to
it
him,
makes it so he can get through lunch if he needs
Yeah.
to. And
That's
then
like 40, 45 grams of protein.
Zach is Googling how much protein this
he's
is.
actually putting it into our macro counter
Yeah.
that we have.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But
I started
it's
going to
some
the same
serious protein
nutritionist.
because it helps him. We found that he didn't do breakfast before he met me. He didn't
Mm.
take multivitamins. He got every cold that the girls ever brought home from school. You know, I met Brandon when the girls were 4 and they're 11 now. So I've been with him almost 8 years. And, you know, I kind of just built a couple of habits in for him to be able to function. He doesn't get the colds now. He can navigate about anything. And like he gets sick maybe once a year tops. It used to be like 7 to 10. Like every 4 to 6 weeks, he'd have a cold. And so just changing a couple of things really helped. And he was like a smoke when you drink kind of guy. And now he doesn't smoke at all. And so just a couple of key habits. And, you know, those are little things that people don't realize. Just take a multivitamin, eat natural food, relatively regularly. Make sure that you have some kind of protein fat intake because fat is what fuels your brain. Protein is what fuels your muscles. Carbs is just energy. If that's something, and 97% of people need carbs for energy. They're not in ketosis, feeding
Right.
off of fat. But
You're actually the reason I have been taking vitamin D every morning.
it helps.
Since
So
you
I
mentioned that we just like literally can't.
Do
get
you feel
enough here.
better?
Yeah.
Oh man, vitamin D is a
Yeah.
thing. And people think, oh, well, we're in Southern Idaho. There's so much sun. Yeah, okay. So you're too far north of the equator to actually get enough vitamin D. Kim's the one who taught me that. Basically, Vegas south, you get enough vitamin D. North of Vegas, you're screwed. Take a vitamin D
I
supplement.
wonder if that's why my grandparents wintered in Arizona.
Well, that and their skin gets thinner as they get older. My grandparents just went to Arizona. So
Yeah.
that's a thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure it was 100% the vitamin D.
Yeah, we're going to move south so we can have some more vitamin D. So
Maybe.
circling back to topic, I feel guilt when I'm resting.
Mm.
Literally,
I do
I
too.
am. My body is like boom, boom, boom. Like it's like
Mhm.
when the computer boots down. That is how I'm feeling as a human because I'm burned out. Because I'm trying to juggle a whole bunch of things all the time, and I'm not taking care of me. I did start CrossFit. We'll talk about that in a later episode, but I've been trying to navigate my energy levels and keep my sleep up, keep healthy. And I've realized that I can't do all of it. Well,
Mhm.
then I take a weekend. So the weekend I was supposed to rest, I made 2 loaves of banana bread, sugar cookies start to finish, frosting and all, and then canned 22 jars of jalapeno pineapple jelly, 6 quarts of tomatoes, and 27 pints of tomatoes. Is that resting? People just look at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? Well, I'm a high functioning individual and I feel guilty. And so I started to think about this. So I had a traumatic event in high school. We're not going to talk about what it is, but blame is a big part. I blame myself when things don't go right. So my way of controlling that is by doing more. That is not always the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so guilt and blame are like cousins, and shame is right in there. So they're kind of the little triad. And I've been watching some close friends go through separations and divorces and breakups lately. And so I kind of took this theme of we are going to divorce guilt. We're going to break up with blame and shame.
Have you told our close friend about this?
about doing this
Yeah.
podcast?
No, about like what you're
No,
you're
she
breaking up with that.
She did a post.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw the post,
Okay,
but I'm like,
I'm
have you-
empowering.
okay,
I'm
good.
empowering.
Good. 'Cause I'm like,
so
I know
I
who
am-
you are, and you need to be watching this podcast.
I'm a big proponent for everybody has their own story
Mhm.
and pick your hard. So my hard is that I'm taking over a family-owned company, and we have grown 25% in the last 5 years. People think we're just a little store. That's less than 15% of our business. You know, we ship flowers in semis to 8 different states in an 800-mile radius. Like, that's not a small gig.
Well, and since like we're talking about Moss real quick, Zach and I are here at least once a week.
Yeah, doing these awesome training
The
videos.
thing is that we're learning, holy crap. Like if people would just step outside and be like, oh yeah, they just grew up. No, like we're learning.
No, we're totally different than
yesterday,
people realize.
what did we learn about the babies and the mothers and how like you like patent different
Oh, yeah,
flowers?
the UPCs.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
UPCs and like you can patent different flowers and
Yeah.
you can't buy
I
that
had-
flower
I
unless
had
it's
no
from here.
idea.
And you even if you plant this kind of thing, nothing
You
will
looked,
come from it.
you
'cause it's
learned the
infertile.
politics of flowers.
We
That's what
did.
you learned.
Yeah,
it
I
was
had-
interesting.
I guess it makes sense because like
There's
it's like
politics and
plant
everything.
copyright. That's
Yeah.
weird.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
It's,
weird.
totally
Yeah.
plant copyright. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
It's wild.
No, a patent on a plant is 7 years, and then they can continue to purchase it, and then they can buy a really, really advanced patent, and then there's a little bit of underhandedness that happens in the industry, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick on anybody. It doesn't matter. But you know, you have the GMO versus the hybridized versus the mutageneticist. There's a whole bunch of science behind all
But
of
it's
that.
like I just thought the flowers were pretty. And I'm like, oh, this one has
That's
multiple colors.
97% of
Yeah.
people.
And they're like,
And
yeah, PJ
pretty
was
cells.
yeah, and PJ was like, well, you know, when you like those pretty flowers that have the different colors, you know that's a hybrid. And if you were to go plant those, they probably wouldn't grow because they're infertile. And I'm like, what?
Well,
Oh,
and like,
why?
you know, something like alyssum. You know, most people know those little white flowers. I
Mhm.
want to make sure that your alyssum is sterile so that it doesn't spread all over your garden and become invasive. And people are
Yeah.
like, what?
Well, and it's
It's
just
fine.
yeah,
It's
it's
rich.
interesting.
I'm like, no, it's not if it's in the wrong spot. And that isn't what the
Crazy.
flower is designed. Well, the seed varieties aren't sterile.
Yeah.
The vegetative kinds are. Vegetative means cutting. And it means that they haven't bred it enough to be able to produce seed that has an exact clone to that plant. And so they have to take a cutting off their mother stock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's full on science.
So
Like,
you-
Crazy.
we're farmers in boxes. Like, people,
Right.
I'm a glorified farmer. And so like by definition out in the world, it is controlled environment greenhouse. Like it's controlled environment agriculture. I manipulate Mother Nature for a living. That is what we do at Moss Greenhouse.
yeah. But you taking over the CEO thing, people are like, oh, good job. And now that we're like learning more, it's like, oh,
This is like Jurassic Park. I just realized. Like
Oh,
PJ was literally
100%.
talking about
Yes.
finding like
This
the
is
quote
our
unquote-
version
wait a
of
minute,
Jurassic
PJ
Park.
Yeah,
and
like the mosquito
PJ
and the
and
amber.
Dave like are the old guy with the
Oh yeah.
the thing
with the amber staff.
with the amber
and the
staff.
hat.
Like there's Dave and PJ when they're like messing with the flowers yesterday and they're planting them. They're like, ooh, yeah.
That is exactly what happens. Well, so in this, like, okay, so leadership, leading a big company.
Mhm.
I feel guilt if I don't get it right. So do you ever go home? And I know the answer to this question before I ask it. So just everybody does this. And I know Zach does it too, because I've heard him talk about it. You go home and you're laying in bed when you're exhausted and all of a sudden you're wide-eyed and you're like, oh my God, I said this to this person today and that was terrible. And oh my God, then this is going to happen and this is, and you get into this like shame spiral and you're just beating yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
How many times a week do you think you do that?
That's like every night.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Sounds like regular.
I'll be exhausted and I could fall asleep on the way. Any step on the way to bed, I could fall asleep. As soon as I lay down, I am wide awake. Brain is repeating everything that happened.
So
Oh
yeah.
my God, he told the cashier.
Yeah.
You said this. You did
have
this.
A gush day.
Yeah.
Like, oh no.
So there's a reason why I don't watch podcasts like this podcast. I
'Cause
love
you-
our podcasts.
But you hyperanalyze.
I
you-
hyperanalyze and
you're-
I'm like, oh, why did you say that, Liz? Oh, why did you do that, Liz?
So I never watch my commercials or when
Mhm.
I'm like in my kitchen and it's spring. So of course they're on Channel 7 constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I like will cringe when I hear my voice because I'm not used to what my voice sounds like. I hear it all day, every day because I apparently, according to my brother, can't shut up my big yap. But
My husband says that too.
Whatever. I'm mad. I apologize for nothing now. Own your space. So
Mhm.
going back to what we were saying about our mutual friend.
Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge how you're feeling. Like, yeah, you might feel guilt, you might feel blame. Recognize it. Right. So have either of you guys read The Untethered Soul?
No.
Michael Singer. Oh my gosh. That book
Write
is
that
fire.
down, Zach.
Yeah, I've got it written. I'll text it to you guys.
Okay.
Untethered Soul. So it's about working through hard feelings and acknowledging them. And typically what we do is we stuff them in a box under the table and we try to ignore them. And that doesn't actually help you process, right? And I've had to work through trauma from when I was in high school. Something brought it all back to light, if you will. And I had to really learn how to work through those feelings. And so the idea is that you learn to acknowledge it, accept it, and push it through basically your heart chakra is the best way I could describe it. And you absorb it and feel it and you let it pass through you and it doesn't return after that. So with like guilt and shame and blame, like, okay, you're feeling guilty because your amphibian brain, right? Your monkey brain that keeps you alive. Like, okay, so you have two parts of your brain. You have your frontal cortex, which is like your cognitive brain.
Mhm.
Then you have your monkey amphibian brain, whatever you want to call it. It depends on which scientist you listen to. But the idea is that this is meant to keep you alive, right? It's to keep your hand off the burner. It's to
Mhm.
tell you not to fall off the cliff. It's to make you run from the lion.
Mhm.
But it's also altruistic. So if you don't do it perfect, this is the part of your brain that beats the shit out of you in your mind.
Mm.
So the second you realize that, this is just some half-brained caveman asshole in my head that's supposed to just keep me alive, my frontal cortex can acknowledge like, hey, I'm being a little bit irrational, like I'm having an emotional element. So you're still accepting it, you're pushing it through, following the untethered soul. You start to see the pattern of when it happens. You start to identify the triggers. So I always ask myself, I'm like, okay, range of control. Can I control any of this? Like, what can I control? I can control me, myself, and I.
Mhm.
My attitude, my effort, my words, my actions. That's the only thing I can control. I can't control what the cashier that I said this weird word to says, what she took with it. They probably just looked at you, huh? Okay, whatever.
Or she didn't even notice.
Or didn't even notice.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. Like, we're so worried about what everyone else is thinking. And this goes back to our mutual friend that, and truly, I don't think that's more her crutch, but that is something that a lot of us do. Like, I do not care, and I'm going to say this publicly, what the socialites of Twin Falls, Idaho care about me.
Right.
I do not
Right.
care.
No, I agree.
I do not care what you think of me. What I do care about is, am I living intentionally by my own values? Can I look myself in the mirror at the end of every day and I left people better than when I found them? I am not playing keeping up with the Joneses. I do not care how much money you make. I do not care what you drive. I do not care where you live. I care that you're kind and that you are contributing human of society
Mhm.
and that you're not vindictive and hurting me, mine, or my family. Past that. Also, I don't care where you buy your flowers. I don't. I care that you garden. I care that you drink the Kool-Aid. The plants are pretty cool. But if it's not something you want to spend your disposable income on, dude, more power to you. That's your choice. Can I try to guide you towards it so you can have a positive experience and have something that's enriching for you? Absolutely. I want to be a part of that. But I do not care what other people think of me. That was one of the best things I ever did for myself. Like, I do not care. I don't like to wear makeup. I really don't. I will do it for like business meetings and stuff and conferences so that I look composed, because if you don't have that armor on, so to speak, you can look tired, you can look drained, but it's not important to me. I do it in certain scenarios, but I actively, every time I wake up to do these podcasts, I'm like, I should probably put makeup on. And I'm like, no, that's not who I am.
Mm-mm.
And I literally have that conversation every morning before I go out. I like make sure that my hair is not completely furrowed, and it is kind of furrowed. Again, this is me. I am candidly and authentically myself. And my intention when I go out into the world every day is like, I'm strong, I'm heart forward, I'm consistent. And I want to leave, my ultimate goal is to leave people better than when I found them. I've done that work to figure that out. And so I don't worry about what other people think. I encourage people to speak their truth. you learn as you go through that. There's going to be times you misstep and you say something that they're like, whoa, she's super out of line. Like, fine. Okay. I'm a human in the world. I said something. You may have an opinion about it. I don't need to apologize for it. Next time I'll work on my approach a little bit better, but I learned my lesson. Okay. Move on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think is really important. And if your goal when you're going into something like where you're outwardly facing to the world, if your intention was in the right place and you did the best you could in the moment with the resources you had, like it comes down to pick your hard. Like it's hard to be an alcoholic. It's hard to go through a 12-step program and get sober. It's hard to be a mom at home. It's hard to be a working parent.
Mm-hmm.
There is always somebody who has a harder hard than you. And there's always somebody who doesn't understand your hard. There's always something that you're not sharing with the public that you're going through that's tough. Like you've shared some personal challenges you're going through, like, oh my God, like, holy shit. Like that doesn't sound fun at all. And then people look at me and they're like, oh my God, you're CEO. That must be so hard. And it's like, yeah, it's a version, but I'm navigating it with the tools I have. Do I get it right every day? Psh, no. That's okay. But I'm candid about it. I also really believe in humility.
Mm-hmm.
And really and again, I don't get that right every day either because ego is armor. Like we were talking about this earlier. Ego is armor you put on to protect yourself from the world. If I misstep at work, okay, so I had a communication while I was having a kidney stone. I felt like crap and I should have sent an email and communicated with my team. I didn't do that properly in the right time frame. And a couple other things shook out in the middle that were outside of my realm of control. And people were pissed and they were upset. And so I had to just own it and say, I apologize. I did not communicate this correctly. That affected you, and I am sorry. And I just went right at it because suddenly I'm exhibiting a skill I would like from my staff as well to say, hey, just own up when you, because as soon as I did that, they were like, oh, I understand. You were having a rough day and you didn't feel good and you got distracted 1,700 times before you got back to your desk and it didn't get done. So you sent me an email at 7 a.m. Shit, sorry guys. Like, and I just own it. And having that moment of just accepting that, you know what, I didn't mean to. I'm not going to feel guilty about that. The second thing I do, besides the realm of control, right, and accepting that I feel that way and identifying it, I ask this question of my kids all the time. I'm like, okay, what's the only thing you can control? It's yourself. You can't control how people are going to respond to you. You can't control what actions they're going to take, how they're going to feel about it. And feelings are outside of your range of control. How you respond to your own feelings is within your range of control. Because anybody does any science on the brain and the heart, that is not something you can control. Like you can't control how you feel. You can control how you respond to how you feel. And then that's a muscle. You just keep using it and then you figure it out. But I ask my kids, I'm like, all right, will this matter in a year? Will this matter in 5 years? Will this matter in 10 years? If the answer is no to any one of those questions, you go, whoa, I need to take a breath. This is not as important as I'm making it. And so those are the qualifying questions I have. And so I've started to apply that to guilt and blame. And like blame is something that's been very hard for me to divorce. If something doesn't go right, I will blame myself or I will accept responsibility for a team that I'm responsible for when they make an error. That's shit rolls uphill, dude. Like that is part of being the boss.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just have to, I might know that another department made an error or somebody was sick or somebody was mad and they just didn't do something. It doesn't matter what it was. It was outside of my realm of control. However, if I'm the one who steps in front of the bullet and says, you know what? We messed up. We didn't get this right. We are sorry. How can I, so I'm personalizing, I'm taking responsibility for it. How can I get this right for you? Where can we make a middle ground so that you are satisfied and I have solved your problem? This is literally a situation that will happen. If we have, say, Sunday after payday, right? The crews that are working their tails off, 60, 70 hours a week, sometimes it'll be a Sunday where 5 of them don't show up and everybody's tired and a couple of them have brown bottle flu. You know, that happens. They're humans and something will get screwed up. And I've got to own up to it with the customer on the phone. And it's usually when somebody's really upset because our team does a really good job of just saying, hey, you know, we got it wrong. Let's fix it. Like, how can I help you? And we work through it. We find a middle ground. And now there's people that are unreasonable and the customer is not always right. Like at the end of the day, because I've had a Californian or several yell at me about a geranium being a perennial, like not in Idaho. Like, okay. And at a certain point, you just look at them and go, you know what? You came to ask me, who is the professional, who has lived here my whole life, minus the 6 years I was gone, but very, very presently aware, professional in the industry. Yes, I don't know what I'm talking about. Buy it twice. Go ahead. Like, I'm not gonna fight with you. And if you don't like my answer, go to the next guy. They're gonna tell you the same thing.
Right.
And again, I can only control me. I can do the best I can. But again, I have learned to divorce guilt and blame. Now, as far as like learning to rest, I still suck at it. So I've been doing this exercise, define self-care, right? Okay, so what do you think self-care is? Okay, so here's why I asked this question. I had a situation where I was talking to somebody and they're like, oh, they think self-care is getting their hair done and their nails done. And I was like, that's self-maintenance. Like by definition, self-care is getting enough sleep, drinking enough water.
People ask me what my
taking
habit is
time.
or like what my hobby is. And I'm like, sleep. Sleep is my hobby.
And that's because you raise babies.
Because I raise
Yeah.
I have there's a podcast I listen to that's actually really interesting. It's called The Happiness Lab.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and there's a study that they've done that people treat themselves significantly better or are able to solve their problems when they talk to themselves like in the third person, as if they were talking to someone else.
Yeah,
because you inherently will treat other people better than you treat yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like you'll defend
Right.
your friends
Absolutely.
or your family
Right.
or your children or your spouse before you'll ever defend yourself. So you'll let somebody bulldoze you, but the second that they go up against somebody you care about, you're like, oh, that is absolutely not okay.
Right.
Mel
Yeah.
Robbins talks about this thing where she says, what would Mel do? Like, if you don't feel empowered enough or you have some reservation that is holding you back, whatever that looks like for you, right? Whatever that narrative is for you, is that, all right, you know what? Who do I admire? Who do I look up to? Who do I know that would just look at this and go, psh, hold my beer and channel them?
That's
Like,
when I call in Jennifer.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
what would Jennifer do?
What would Jennifer do?
Yeah, ask.
She'd be like, hold my beer.
You don't,
Yeah,
even,
hold my
you
beer.
don't even need
I don't
to
e-
change your
I
what
know.
would Jesus do.
I'm just like,
No.
no, it's what would,
the J is the
what
same.
Would Jennifer
Yeah.
do?
So
we
Yeah.
need those.
you
Zach.
could just
What would Jennifer do? Well, like,
Hmm.
honestly, because at the end of the day, we always are going to beat ourselves up the most.
Mhm.
The critic between your own two ears is the worst one. And that is why I'm challenging everyone, like, divorce the guilt, break up with the blame and the shame, because ultimately that is not servicing you in any way, shape, or form. It is taking your vibration down, your energy levels down, your confidence levels down. I mean, however you need to look at it, like, hey, what do I want more in life? I want more energy. I want more vitality. I want more enrichment from the experiences I have. I want to fill my cup more often. How do I do that with being a new CEO, raising two girls with a great parent team? So I'm very fortunate with a friend group. We're all stupid busy. I'm trying to expand my friend group. That's hard as a 37-year-old female. I'm trying to get more active. So what did I do with fitness? Like, okay, I identified I get decision fatigue. Bad. Like the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, where they wear the same black t-shirt and jeans every day. I'm starting to think that's kind of genius.
It is kind of genius.
he is kind of a reptilian though.
It
100%.
totally is. But at the same time, take the concept, right? Like, I'm not willing to wear the same clothes every day. I'm just not. That is not who I am.
Right,
as you.
right.
I'm not going to put makeup on. I'm probably going to
But
leave my
think
hair
about
the
it.
same.
He just has to go in the closet and pull
Grab-
one thing.
It's one less decision.
Yeah.
Right.
So what I'm having a hard time with is, like, I have everything except my physical health down on point. And that's because I've got gut health issues. I've got an autoimmune disease, Graves' disease, and I'm dealing with that. I've got leaky gut, and I've had kidney stones recently. So I needed somebody like, it was like, okay, I want community. I want more friends that have more time or who have more of the similar challenges that I'm dealing with. Not that my current friends aren't incredibly amazing, just that I need to start branching out a little bit so that I have a little bit more diversity, right? Those are checklists for me, right? So I'm trying to make it a point to spend more time with different people to diversify my experience, right? So I look at physical health and I was like, I get decision fatigue. I don't want to figure out how to do a fitness program. Like, that sucks. I don't want to go to a physical trainer and get yelled at either. So what did I decide? I'm going to do CrossFit so I can get yelled at with a group of people. I love it. It's stupid. I love it. I didn't make it today because I'm like literally crashing as a human, but I'm going to take a week, go on vacation with my family, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit it hard and I'm just going to tackle it. So that's a decision I'm making, but it came down to like personal trainer CrossFit. Okay, I can 2 bird 1 stone in this, and I don't have to think about it. All I do is I put my workout clothes in the bathroom, because if there's any way I make it back to my bedroom in my PJs, I am going to curl right back up in bed. I take my phone, I charge it outside of my bedroom, and I have like the air horn at full volume at 4:45 a.m. go off. So I have to get up because there's no way my ass is sleeping through that.
Jesus.
Okay, but I also have an alarm at 8:30 at night that says, go plug me in, because it's on my phone. So my phone is talking to me.
Too.
And it says, put your workout clothes out and take your supplements. So I go, like, because a healthy morning routine starts with a healthy evening routine, right? So I want to set myself up for success. So that's how I do it. And it removes the guilt, it removes the blame. And I'm usually not cognitive enough to argue with myself at that point. But again, if you haven't read The 5-Second Habit with Mel Robbins, that's an incredible way to do it too. And yeah, I can give you a whole list of books. Also, have you read The Gap and the Gain? I think we talked about this.
We talked about it. You talked about it in
this is podcast. Living in the gain, not the gap, because guilt and shame and blame happens in the gap. They're like, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I didn't get that done. Oh shit. Like, and you're just, so live in the gain. Okay. So the whole concept behind the book, for the listeners, you now is vastly different than you 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago, you didn't believe that you'd be where you are today. So if you have a gregarious goal that might be 2 years away, that seems scary, and you're like, oh, I can never do that. I can never do that. Well, no. All right, let's live in the gain. You are that person. What has to be true for you to be that person? And you reverse engineer it. And an engineer's daughter and the math girl. This just, it's stupid simple. And I know, I mean, I've got a very good friend, Stephanie. She's like, executive function, you're the captain. You can figure it all out. And she's ADHD. And she's really helped me understand my daughter, first off, but also understanding that my ability to simplify is a superpower. Like, I can simplify anything. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's X, Y, and Z. Fine, do this. And they're like, huh? How'd you get there? I'm like, well, you bastardized it and added like 17 extra ingredients to the recipe. So now it tastes like, unicorn toast. And of course, yeah, you know how this goes. And really, you just needed toast with butter, with sugar and cinnamon. Like, you didn't need butter and sprinkles and jelly and peanut butter. And then they grabbed relish instead of jelly. And now you have chutney with salsa and... I feel like this might have happened at your household when some daughter's like, let me make lunch for you, mommy.
Yeah, I believe that. That checks.
that is what okay. So when this happens tonight, guys, and all listeners, when you start to do this, embrace the feeling, let it happen, and then forgive yourself at the end. And then if you really want to dig deep, do some shadow work, journal in the mornings. And part of Gap and Gain, at the end of the day, he ends every day with 3 wins. And then he writes out 3 wins. It's not necessarily gratitude, but it is. But it's just a different take. So if gratitude works for you, awesome. If you're always living from a state of gratitude, like, that's the thing. Like, I could beat myself up about rest, but I was like, hold on, there's a lesson here. I am not good at this, so I need to take active attention. So when I didn't feel good this week, And I was like, ooh, I am borderline getting a cold. I stopped and said, you need to rest. You need to stop. And so I canceled plans. I moved stuff because it was important, because my health is my wealth. And so
Mhm.
identifying, and this all starts with self-reflection. We haven't done the self-awareness is a superpower episode yet, but that's what I want to tell anybody who's struggling is I want to just put a mirror in front of them and be like, this is where you need to start. And that's when people just want to flip you off. And they're like, not doing that. External situations are the problem. It's like, no, it all starts with you.
I saw one thing that kind of matches up with what you were talking about earlier in the show, with monkey brain versus that your brain is designed to keep you alive, not to keep you happy.
Correct.
Happiness is not a necessity in the wiring of your brain.
Yes.
It's a side effect.
It is.
So when you have that in mind, you can establish what is needed, and happiness will follow with that.
So I want to close out the show with exactly the right message for this. So thank you, Zach. You actually helped me with this. Busy is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Stress is a choice. I need to listen to that because I still feel
Where's
stressed.
the mirror?
I think it's the light that's looking right at me because it's making me squint. But also, joy is a choice. Happiness is a choice. And if your mindset is poisoned, you're never going to shake it off. So start in the mirror. I listened to a Rachel Hollis podcast about self-image yesterday because it's something I'm working on because I'm not good at loving my body. So she was talking about, I used to look myself in the eye 10 something years ago after she had, three baby boys. And she said, I hated myself in the mirror. And the idea was look at yourself naked in the mirror until you love yourself.
For 5 minutes.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's like a form of torture.
Meghan
I'd rather
Trainor.
get tattooed in my eyeball than do that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? No, this is actually something I need to embrace. It's like the yoga position you hate. It's probably the position you need.
Yeah.
Like I hate downward dog. I feel like all of this is going up into my eye. Ugh. I hate it. But it's probably something I need. Well, she started with her eyes. And now the man she's dating, it is his favorite part about her body. And she's like, I wonder if I manifested that. And so I stood in the mirror for a minute this morning and was like, they're kind of gray, kind of blue. And I had that moment and I was like, okay, you know what? This is part of this. I feel blame and shame and guilt because I feel like I created this body because that is what the world has told me through social media for so long. So I stood in front of the mirror and was like, I'm gonna look at my eyes. And, the first thing I was like, well, I really like my tattoo. But that's not actually a part of my body. It's on my skin. But I love that I have clear skin. I love that I do have blue eyes.
You don't have bags under your eyes.
Not all the time. I do sometimes.
Right. But
it happens.
We were talking last episode about one of the episodes.
Yeah.
About you don't wear makeup.
No.
And it's like, but your skin is nice.
Because I don't wear makeup.
And our mutual friend who's going through a very big life change, I've told her recently, you look great.
Yeah. And
your
glowing.
skin is glowing and you look amazing. And she's like, well, I haven't been getting facials or anything. And I'm like, no, but you look
You don't
great.
have to.
It's because your stress is gone.
Yeah. And living your truth really takes a lot of layers of extra bullshit off. And the weight of other people's expectations and judgment of you is the heaviest.
But Meghan Trainor, the singer Meghan Trainor.
Yeah.
She
I
said,
don't listen to anything, but I know the name.
Her therapist actually told her you have to stand in the mirror for 5 minutes naked. And until you can love yourself, you
will literally never get healthy and to the place you want to be until you go through
and she said it took her months before she wouldn't cry when she did it because she just hated herself so much.
Exactly. And that is the weight of the world.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to work on this because people look at me and they're like, God, she's confident. God, you're not scared of anything. It's like, I'm really not scared of anything. You're right. That's an accurate statement. That is a muscle I have flexed for a long time. I'm scared of the undertow of the ocean. If anybody's ever worried.
Oh, that is scary though.
Yeah, you can't see it.
No, it can take you and you're gone.
And I'm not super fond of really high up things, but I can handle it. And I don't ever want to go caving for any reason.
No, why do people do that?
Good for them. Embrace your fear.
That's a whole nother topic.
And I'm an embrace your fear person. So we had an exercise in this. I never want to be chased with a chainsaw. Like, I went to Albion Haunted Mansions this weekend and almost got chased by a chainsaw. And it was just like, and mind you, there's no chain on it. Like
Yeah,
these
but
guys.
still, it's the
But to
noise.
watch grown ass men run at a full speed is so gratifying in my heart. I'm just going to say that. That is
Yeah.
absolutely divine. I absolutely love it. But blame and shame and guilt come from exterior stuff, and we've created this in our head. So learn how to shake it off. So you guys now have homework. You just pick it up from the show notes. But yeah, that we can divorce guilt. We can break up with blame and shame, and do it because what other people think of you is none of your business, and you get to control what happens in your head. Don't let anybody else have real estate, especially the asshole in your monkey brain, because you're not going to get it perfect all the time, and that makes you human.
Mm-hmm.
So I invite you to divorce guilt and choose joy and choose happiness. And remember that you are the most beautiful person in your life because you are it. You get to live with you in your head, so you might as well enjoy it. All right. And with that, guys, have a wonderful holiday. This is about like mid-holiday season. And we're going to feel the expectations and the weight of how our family and friends feel about us during this season. And that's a choice you get to make, whether you're going to invite that narrative into your space. With that, go live your life in full color because plain is pretty boring. Thanks, guys.